friends, it's Everything Mayor. We're going to do the intro live today. Here we go. All right. It is not easy to be a podcast host and play guitar at the top of the show. Welcome to Everything Mayor, episode 50. I promised you something special. It's not a giveaway, but we got more coming on that front. But for today, I thought, why not play the intro live? We'll talk a little bit more about what you were hearing over here, thanks to our first sort of unofficial, I like to call it tone sponsor. So guitar players, make sure you stick around. But today, we're going to talk about Ed Sheeran, John Mayer, dropping, almost dropping. It's kind of old school where we get a feature from John Mayer. We're going to talk about that. And I think it sheds some light on a previous Instagram post that he made. We're going to talk about the touring band, or, well, maybe not tour, but the shows in 2025, which don't really constitute a tour, but who I think is going to be in the band for those shows. John Mayer has a baseball card. What else? Whatever comes to mind. You know what? It is weird playing guitar at the top of the show. It is two different parts of my brain. But let's start out with the biggest news, I think, of the last few weeks. And I've waited a few weeks to do a show for this reason, to try to aggregate some things as we anticipate what is coming, which is no doubt more John Mayer music, hopefully later this year, early next year. We know he's working on it. But we've got an Ed Sheeran and John Mayer collaboration. Now, this one's not quite as obvious. Thanks to Mimi and John Mayer Solos on Instagram. You can go check it out there. I'm not going to play it just because I don't want to get hit with a copyright strike, but it's a song called Crashing. And if you listen to the song, it's got a solo by John Mayer, which we've been seeing him do quite a bit these days. But I think this one is very interesting. Not only... not this particular song, well, maybe this song, not the whole record, but not only are they sharing a producer for, again, not the whole record for Ed Sheeran, but Blake Slatkin, who we are reasonably sure is producing the new John Mayer record, produced a few songs on the new Ed Sheeran record. And you can see the crossover, the influence. This song, Crashing, as well as, I think, Ozzy Zam, which is like the big single from, has, I think, Pino Palladino on bass. Again, you got the cross-pollination of the Mayer world with the Ed Sheeran world. But on this song, Crashing, here's what I think. Do you remember the Instagram post from, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago, that had all of the amplifiers stacked up, and we were speculating as to where that might have been, and John's caption was, "Can rock when called upon." So I did a whole episode about how are we getting a more rock-centered John Mayer album. I'm not going to say that I was wrong about that. Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. I don't know. But what I can tell you is based on the tone, the guitar tone on the solo on Crashing with Ed Sheeran, that is absolutely a rock guitar tone. It's sort of like a Guns N' Roses Slash kind of thing, which is interesting. So I'm going to say, John, if you're listening, you can let me know if I'm right or wrong. But when he posted that, I want to say he was recording the solo on this Ed Sheeran song. That's what I think. Just throwing it out there. You let me know what you think, if I am right or wrong. But really cool. Now, here's the thing about Crashing. It's a traditional B-side. Well, maybe not traditional, but old school B-side. You can't find it on streaming services right now. You got to buy the physical copy of the vinyl or the CD to get that. Now, it will be released, I'm sure, to streaming eventually. But it's kind of an interesting move, to throw a B-side out there on the physical media that almost nobody buys anymore, featuring John Mayer. So kind of cool. Kudos to those of you who have discovered it. Great job there. And, as with anything on the internet, you can go out and find a version of it. It's out there, or at least listen to the solo. But again, that's my call. That's my hot take, is that the solo we hear is very much a rock solo. It's very much Slash inspired from Guns N' Roses, I think. The song kind of has that vibe as well. So when we saw that photo back in the day, with all of his amps set up in sort of what would we consider a rock configuration. And he said, can rock when called upon. That's what he was recording. That's my guess. Go from there. John, you let me know if you happen to reach out. Let me know if I'm right. Cool. So let's move on. Another little, if you happen to be paying attention, which I was, a few weeks ago, we got a little clue into who is going to be in the band for the upcoming shows. Now, we've gotten little bits and pieces. We know he's doing September 27th here at U of M Stadium with Zach Bryan. Then you know he's doing September 28th down in Nashville for the festival. Both of these are going to be full band sets as we have kind of gathered. Now, who is going to be in the band? Well, I don't know, but I can tell you that Aaron Sterling is going to be the drummer. And the reason why we know that is because Aaron posted and reposted the Nashville festival that's happening on September 28th. So it stands to reason he's probably, not just helping to promote his friend John's music and shows. He's going to be on those shows. So if he's playing the 28th, I would say he's almost absolutely playing the 27th. So who does that leave for the rest of the rhythm section, meaning the bass player? Well, as we've seen in the past, Pino Palladino has sort of signed on for the longer tour commitments, and Sean Hurley has done the more one-off, like those Sob Rock TV performances that we saw promoting those. So I don't know. I think it could go either way. I haven't really sleuthed it and dug into like the other acts that Sean and Pino play with and see what those acts are doing around September. That could shed some light on who's going to be playing bass. So, from there, I think it's probably going to be the usual characters, I would imagine, from the last tour. Kind of the wild card, I think, would be keyboards. Or is he going to go with one or two keyboard players? Greg Fillinganes being on keys for the Sob Rock tour was a very specific thing. He's a legend. He was a huge part of the sound of that record, so it made sense to bring him along out on tour, but he's a busy guy. I know that he very much enjoyed, or at least it seemed like he enjoyed playing with Mayer. So it's possible. But do you need two keyboard players? Probably not. But we'll see. So that's it. Sterling on the drums. Now, if you want to go back and check on the channel, I do have a whole expose on all the different drummers that John Mayer has played with over the years. You can go and watch that and tell me which one your favorite is. It's not a ranking. There's no such thing as ranking these players. They're all amazing. But Aaron Sterling is going to be on the upcoming shows in the fall. At least that's from what I can tell. That's what's going on. So hopefully this ages well and I'm correct. Moving on, we had John Mayer. He's always doing all sorts of things. We got a lot of things in the watch world, obviously. But he threw out the first pitch at a New York Mets game, which I got to tell you, and I don't know. I would have to imagine stepping outside of your comfort. I know how I would feel. I would be terrified to do this because athleticism is not something that I was necessarily blessed with. But to be able to go out there and do this and get it over the plate, it was a little high. But I don't think anybody's going to, critique too badly for the first pitch. It is not an easy task to do. So I'm sure it's quite an honor because I know that he's a huge New York Mets fan, but I'd be curious to know how nerve-wracking that was. He's done a million different things, played guitar and appeared at a lot of different places, very high-profile events, very important events. But I would imagine that this probably was pretty nerve-wracking because it's just you're outside of your comfort zone. Going to play guitar in front of 100,000 people. That's what he does. He's not an MLB pitcher, though. So, and not many people are either one of those things. So, but the cool thing that came out of this is that we have a baseball card. Who remembers those? I had a bunch of hockey cards growing up. They're still around somewhere. But I bought a baseball card. I had to buy the John Mayer baseball card. So Lindor's on there with him as well. He's a good friend on the Mets. So there's a possibility that we might have a giveaway for some of those cards, thanks to some very generous listeners, watchers, subscribers. But stay tuned on that. That will likely replace the giveaway we were supposed to have for this episode, which just did not pan out. And I'm sorry for that, but I'll make it up to you. I promise. So John Mayer has a baseball card. And I hope to be the proud owner of that baseball card very soon. I ordered one and it should be on its way at some point. Now, I did mention at the top of the show that we have sort of a unofficial sponsor of the show, and that's John Kaneshiro. And if you can look him up, I'll link his channel in the description below. This is for the guitar players in the room. But right over here is a Nano Cortex by Neural DSP. This is one of the many digital modelers out there, but John has been an ardent supporter of this show, this channel, my main channel, and he does some really cool things. He gets his hands on really, really incredible actual guitar amplifiers. And what this device, as well as a few others, do is they do this thing called capturing. And it plays all these crazy noises through the amplifier, and it basically measures how it reacts to all these different sounds and gives you a digital recreation of that amplifier. Now, the one I was playing through here was a PRS John Mayer signature amplifier, which they didn't make very many of, but John, Jon, not John, Jon, got his hands on one of those and created a digital capture, and that's what I was playing through. He was kind enough to send me this Nano Cortex to play through. So if you're a guitar player and you have a Line 6 Helix or HX Stomp or a Nano Cortex or a Quad Cortex or any of the fractal stuff, go to John Kaneshiro's website. He's got presets for sale, and you can skip over all of the noodling around and trying to figure out how to get your gear to sound like John Mayer. There's really no faster way to get that John Mayer inspired tone than like through using John's presets. And they are better than anybody's out there. I will tell you that right now. And it's timely because Mayer used the bigger version of this at Coachella. And I wanted to go back to Coachella for a moment, if we could, because in the meantime, while I was not putting out a show for the channel, we got some rehearsal footage from Coachella with Zed and John Mayer. So I want to go through that because there's some interesting things in this footage that I think are worth breaking down. Let's do that right now.
So imagine I add the synth on top of right
That's
here.
Zed. There's John. Very cool. So let's stop right there. First of all, a rehearsal with all these people there. I mean, it's kind of funny because, like, if it were me, I would want far fewer people in the room for a rehearsal. I feel like it's just a little bit distracting, but that's me. But we wouldn't have this awesome footage if it weren't for whoever was in the room with them. Very cool, though. You know, they're discussing an interesting performance because they don't have a band. Zed is playing drums. By the way, he's a great drummer. Really, really cool addition to the songs. And they did New Light and Automatic Yes. And you'll see them rehearsing Automatic Yes here. And we'll get to what they're discussing here in a minute. But I mean, essentially what they're doing is they're playing to a backing track of the studio recording. Mayer's playing guitar over it. He's singing over it. And then Zed is putting actual drums, live acoustic drums over that track, which is really, really cool. But you have to make some choices. And you can hear them talking about some choices they're going to make here coming up. I'll explain that. Here you go.
Leave it in?
Leave it in so that leave it in. I'll do something else over it.
All right, so John says, leave it in. I'll do something else over it. What I'm guessing they're discussing here is when you're not just playing a track from Spotify and then, you know, adding a guitar and drums over top of it. Because they recorded this song, they have what's called stems, and that's each individual instrument broken down to the point where they can mix however they want. So they can delete Mayer's original vocal from the studio. They can delete any guitar parts that he wants to play live. And what I think they're discussing there is one of the many guitar parts that he layered into this track. Like, hey, do we want to leave it in? Do we want to take it out? He says leave it in. And what I think that means is just leave the studio version of that particular guitar track that he's talking about. And then I'm going to play something else on top of it to make it different, more fleshed out and interesting. So that would be my guess. And you can see Zed holding that iPad there. And you're basically like choosing, you know, hey, do we want to bring this in? Do we want to bring that? You know, you can bring the original bass track up. You can, there's backing vocals. There's about, 6 or 7 layered John Mayer vocals that they left in, which is really cool. And they're making those decisions. That's what the rehearsal really is for here, is they both know the song, but they want to know, they're trying to figure out how exactly to present it in this unique setting without a band.
How about the oldest guy at Coachella. Weezer's there.
Did you catch that? He said, I'm not the oldest guy at Coachella. Weezer is there. And I think Weezer is, in fact, a little bit older than John. But very cool. I mean, you could see, for you guitar nerds out there, you could see the quad cortex, which replaces his amplifiers and pedals in this scenario, which, life is a lot easier for something like this. Just show up with that. I mean, Jeremy, his guitar tech, showed up earlier than this, obviously, and set it all up. But just easier in general. And it sounds great. Sounds great. I mean, I'm doing it no justice, compared to what Mayer does, but this little version of it here is similar to what he's using.
You climb up a ladder, and I will go off stage and ask everyone, that was good, right? Was it good? That was good, right? Was it good? They go to the strangers, was it good? Was it good? Was it good? They go, yeah, it was good. I go, you were a little late. They say, yeah, it was good. Was it good? It was good. It was good.
Great job, everybody. Great job.
There you go. Having like a little stand-up routine and then a little bit, just highlighting the desire for validation that we all have, even John Mayer, particularly at a festival. Coachella is kind of cool. Got to make sure you're cool. All right, there you go. Here's some actual rehearsal, probably day of, practicing the intro. Now I want you to listen closely to how this sounds on stage. Very echoey, and it's like you can't really hear anything on stage. And the reason for that is they're wearing in-ear monitors, and if you were standing next to John on stage or Zed on stage, got an ad. There we go, of course, right? Got to pay the bills. If you're standing next to John or Zed on stage, you're not going to hear what everyone hears in the audience. In this case, you're going to hear no guitar. You're going to hear a lot of just acoustic drums, and then you're going to hear sort of the slapback echo of what's coming out of the main speakers, hitting you back, on stage. So it's a weird experience if you don't have the in-ear monitors in, because it's not meant to be listened to in that way. Old days, you'd have speakers on the floor facing you, and you get more of a sense of what the actual performance sounds like. These days, most of the time, if you stand next to them, you're on what's called a silent stage, where something like the nano cortex or the quad cortex, it helps because you don't have guitar amplifiers on stage. If you had those on stage, you would hear those and it would sound a little bit more normal than what you just heard there. But really cool to kind of peek behind the curtain of how Zed and John Mayer prepped for Coachella. There it is. We're back to the after dinner mint. This is the portion of the show where the real ones stick around and enjoy some candid talk from me. And I have a hot take today. I'm going to save it for a second. I have a hot take, and it might piss some people off, but that's okay. That's okay. I feel like I can say it to you all because I've been wanting. I'm not going to put this at the top of the show because I don't want everybody to hear it. But if you're listening this far, I think it's safe for me to say it to you. But first of all, again, I want to thank John Conachero. Make sure you check out his website, check out his YouTube channel. It does a ton of Mayer things. It's really centered around recreating John's tones with these capture devices, specifically the one I've got here, which is the Nano Cortex. I'll link that in the description below as well. So if you get one and you download the captures and buy them from John's website, you're up and running on any of these devices. I've got an HX Stomp from Line 6, same thing, very simple to set up, and boom, you have this really great Mayer-inspired tone, if that's what you're going for, pretty quickly. And then he's got other captures too, so make sure you check it out. But here's my hot take. Should I do this over the outro? I think I'm going to do it over the outro. We'll use the traditional outro. No, we'll use the one without the solo and talk over it. Why not? Here it is. Here's my hot take. Juan Mayor, the Instagram personality who's, obviously imitating John Mayer. It's not funny. I'm sorry. I just don't think it's funny. I don't think it's offensive or anything like that, but I just don't think it's a good bit. And John Mayer is a connoisseur of comedy. I think I have a pretty good sense of humor as well. If it was better executed, I would like it more. I got nothing against the guy. I do see him in protein powder ads, which is kind of weird. So I'm like, hey, Juan Mayer is doing protein powder ads on YouTube also, but just the same guy. That's my hot take. I don't know. What do you think? Just my thoughts. Catch you next time.